So there's going to be an eclipse on July 2nd. It won't be visible in North America, but some people maintain that they have effects. They, of course, theoretically have more effects where they are visible, but they have effects anyway, no matter where you are. Eclipses are regarded as the very best time to do any kind of spiritual practice, focused, mind, intention kinds of things, because like births and deaths, eclipses are a kind of portal when things can really shift, because the luminaries, the sun and the moon, which govern our rhythms down here in terms of day and night and tides and seasons, etc., are temporarily disrupted. And so there's kind of a portal open to other worlds, and it's a time when things can really shift in either a positive or negative direction. And that's true in the Vedic tradition, but it's also true in other traditional cultures that eclipses are regarded as very sensitive times. They occur twice every year, and some of them have greater visible immediate effects and some have less. Classically in Jyotish, when an eclipse occurs in a particular nakshatra, that nakshatra is not good for doing things on for 6 months afterwards. The energy is said to leave a lingering kind of effect for 6 months afterwards. This eclipse, Rahu, the north node of the moon, will be in Punarvasu, but the sun and moon will actually be in Ardra, the nakshatra just before Punarvasu. So both of those nakshatras would be wise to avoid, but probably especially Ardra in the next 6 months, if you track the moon and know which days the moon is in Ardra, which is once per month. There was an eclipse in Paris very shortly before they started guillotining people in the French Revolution. There was also a full lunar eclipse in Washington somewhere near the start of Donald Trump's presidency, and we talked about how Donald Trump was also born in an eclipse, which kind of raises the collective Jyotishical awareness perhaps in the United States about eclipses. There was also an eclipse 5 days before the United States detonated the first atom bomb in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And at that time, Saturn was also involved with Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon, which it's fairly rare that there is an eclipse that also involves Saturn, who is another heavy-duty malefic planet. And it's more my Jyotishical curiosity to see if this coming eclipse bodes particularly poorly, because Saturn will be exactly conjunct Ketu, the south node of the moon, opposite Rahu, who will be conjunct the sun and the moon in Gemini. So for people who have significant placements in Gemini or Sagittarius, this is also a more potent karmic moment for them, and an especially good time to be saying your prayers. So here is the eclipse chart for July 2nd around, this is actually earlier than the eclipse starts, but I wanted to put the sun and the moon and Rahu in the ascendant so people could see it. Saturn and Ketu are down here. They're only 9 minutes apart. Saturn's at 23 degrees 43 minutes. Ketu's at 23 degrees 52 minutes. So a very, very tight conjunction. The eclipse chart of 1945, when just before the first atom bomb was detonated, we see that Rahu is in Ardra and Saturn is in Punarvasu. It even involves the same nakshatras that are happening now, although Saturn is on the opposite side over here in Punarvasu. Ketu is down there by himself in Purva Ashada. So this, it's kind of an interesting moment, because something to me looks like something began, what is that now? Nearly 75 years ago, is sort of being reactivated. And this comes at a moment when, when there are dangers being reported all over, of course. But certainly there seem to be escalating world crises in terms of climate change and pesticide use and international tension over trade. And Ardra is a particularly challenging nakshatra because it is associated with destruction, um, and particularly destruction of the natural world. Classically, from thousands of years ago, before humans had the kind of technology they have now, that was associated with major storms, and even then to some degree with extraction of natural resources. But it can certainly, in the modern world, be affiliated with loss of natural habitat and just with destruction generally. So it's Ardra means moist, and the symbol is a teardrop. So this is a nakshatra associated with very profound grief and loss. Rudra, who rules this nakshatra as the deity, is a form of Lord Shiva, and one of the stories told about the creation of the universe is that Lord Shiva cried when he saw that Brahma had created the universe, because he immediately realized how much all sentient beings would suffer. And then he became tremendously angry with Lord Brahma. So rage and grief over very profound forms of loss are associated with this nakshatra, and that certainly is on the rise anyway in the modern world. There's a new category of psychological illness termed echo grief or echo anxiety, because so many people are experiencing psychological disturbance over the state of the world. There's been a group formed of women who are who are against giving birth, against bringing more beings into this world because of the sort of very catastrophic looking future that we're all facing. This connection to 1945 too, it made me think about the discovery of the planet Pluto. Pluto was discovered in 1930. And let's just see, I have that chart somewhere here. Let's see where it is. 65, 38. Here we go. So Pluto was discovered on February 18th of 1930. And Pluto was, at that time, let's see where Pluto was sitting when he was discovered. He was sitting in Punarvasu. Pluto is now sitting opposite Punarvasu, down here in Sagittarius in Uttarashada. So Pluto, who takes 248 years to go around one circle around the sun, has gone a little more than halfway. It's like retrograde, so it's a little ahead of schedule right now. But it has gone more than halfway in about 75 years now. What is that, 70, 80, almost 90 years. And is sitting opposite where it was when it was discovered. And of course, once Pluto was discovered, within 2 decades, we had the invention of chemical pesticides, the discovery of nuclear fission, and the invention of the atom bomb. And within, 3 decades, the invention of plastic. And so many of the things that have accelerated the problems of massively expanding death on our little planet came into being shortly after the discovery of Pluto. And of course, ironically or not, the elements of nuclear fission ended up being named after the outer planets, chiefly uranium and plutonium. So at that time, Saturn also was in Sagittarius at the time that Pluto was discovered. So to my mind anyway, there is kind of this plutonic reckoning afoot at the moment. It sort of seems to me like it's a holy moment. Everyone's like, wow, we killed the planet. And so then the question is there anything, when we look into the astrological future, do we see hope for rectification in the coming years for the kinds of things that have been created? Will there be a containment or a dismantling? Will global warming slow down, etc.? I'm looking for that hope, but we'll see if it's anywhere to be found.